Hey, everybody out there in podcast land. This is your host, Severin Henderson. This is Firecast, as presented by Department 3C. This is just a generic intro. Probably means I wasn't able to get into the studio to put an intro together, but I still wanted to provide a podcast and I wanted to provide an intro to what we were going to be talking about. So, hopefully, you enjoy the episode and you can read in the comments or the show notes description what the episode is all about. But like I said, I just wanted to put something together so that you can know that it's your favorite podcast. All that being said, I usually say this at the end, but I'll put it here. Please reach out with any comments, likes, dislikes, any information that you want to pass on to us. Our email address is info@department3c.com, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks again for listening. First thing we're going to get into that I wanted to ask you about and that you wanted to speak about more than anything is inflation. The American people, we are going through inflation, a recession, skies falling, monkeys are coming to steal our kids. Well, that's probably what Republicans think for real. But besides that, talk to us about inflation, what you think of the situation, some things we may be able to do to kind of make ourselves resilient in these times like this.
Well, inflation is one of them things where for a society or, a country such as ours, you want it to be between like 1 and 2% or 2.5% or so. That's considered a healthy inflation. But now, due to the pandemic and everything that has happened since COVID, inflation is at like 8.6.
Ooh.
And that's extremely high.
Yeah.
But it's not high to the point where you're seeing the country as a whole struggle. It's not like it was during the Great Recession towards the end of the Bush administration going into the Obama administration. That's when
2008.
2008, 2009, that's when things were real rough. Myself, I was laid off for 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
And, the big three automakers were going through bankruptcy. Well, not, who did? I think it was Ford. Ford didn't take the bankruptcy bailout. But,
yeah, they were the only ones that didn't take it, right?
Say what?
I said Ford is the only ones that didn't take it, correct?
Correct. Ford didn't take it. They just, did their business model and, got out of it, so to say. But they still were struggling as well.
Yeah.
Then you also had the subprime mortgages where people were losing their houses. That's why, for a period of time back then, and you can even still see it today, there's a lot more empty houses, especially in impoverished areas, because a lot of those people will get those loans to be able to, stay in their house or whatever. And there's a lot of predatory type stuff going on. But in this year, 2022, we're not quite there.
So another, not way to explain it, but kind of, if you are in the movies and things like that, what's the movie? The Big Short. That kind of explains what was going on back then. Even some of the stuff that was happening leading up to it, like the fact that they were giving people loans that there was no way in the world they should have got.
They were pretty much just giving money away.
Yeah.
In loan form, though.
Yeah.
So that's what also, caused the banks to crash and the insurance companies to crash and all that stuff, and everything had to get bailed out. The stock market crashed. Everything was just crash.
Right.
And we're not at that point right now. I think inflation, is talked about a lot because it's election season. So, They always have to find one thing to scare everybody. Right now it's inflation.
Now,
and crime rides on the coattails of it.
Now, what I feel like I remember and heard and hear so much is how, like when Obama was in office, the number one thing I would hear from people is we are in so much debt. We are in debt. They just borrowing money. They making money. And I'm like, well, who are we in debt to? We in debt to China. I'm like, well, what they gonna do to come get their money? I mean, this is like the creditors when they call you on the phone. Is they gonna like send over a bomb? I mean, I'm as financially conscious as the next person. You know, you don't want to have a whole bunch of debt and be owing people, whether it's in the legal form or the illegal form. That's just not a situation you want to be in. But in the next presidency, I saw that same number go up, and I don't hear that complaint from anyone anymore. And I have, you know, how people say they got the receipts. I'm not going to look for it on my Facebook page or anything like that. But this is a question I asked, and people were up in arms about this debt. Now the debt is even higher, and I don't hear anything about it anymore.
Well, you got the debt, and you got the deficit. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And
no, explain the difference to us.
Well, debt is the amount of money that is out there owed by, people that that the United States allowed to buy its debt. So as the United States continues to spend money, the debt goes up because someone owns that debt. It could be, like you just said, China. It could be investors. It could be the American people. But then you also had a deficit. And the deficit can be explained like, what is the difference between the debt, the amount of money borrowed and the amount of money that we put in? You know what I'm saying? So right now, the deficit, since Biden has been in office, the deficit is down 1.7 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And he ain't even been in office for full 2 years yet. That's pretty good. That's like, in fact, that's awesome. That's one of the biggest deficit decreases in regards to the debt in history. In fact, it is the biggest in history. So it's not like the United States is borrowing all this money and it's not paying it back.
Okay.
Because as long as we decrease the deficit, the debt is also affected because we're not paying our bills.
Okay, so that's why I don't hear about
it. Of course you're not. Like, because that's, a lot of people don't pay attention to that kind of stuff because, everybody is tribal. So everybody is just going to believe what they want to believe, say what they want to say, rather than looking at the facts of the matter. Like going all the way back to Bill Clinton, that's what, over 30 years, Democratic presidents have always brought the deficit and the debt down. I mean, you can look it up. Like, it's a simple thing to Google. But, Republicans always say that Democrats love to just spend and not repay the debt. But that's just simply not true. You know what I'm saying? Because, facts matter. Just go look up the facts and you will see that it's Republicans that run up all the bills and don't have a way to pay for it.
Okay. So
once that happens, then, a Democrat has to come in and clean it up. It happened with George Herman. It happened with the first Bush, because he said no new taxes and he rose taxes anyway. And Bill Clinton came in, wiped all that out. And in fact, we had a surplus at one point because of that NAFTA deal and all that was kind of turned out to be trash. And then you had the other Bush come in And the deficit that Bill Clinton had created, he gave all that money away to businesses and rich people.
Right.
So then the debt and everything went back up. And also the war with Iraq and Afghanistan and all that stuff happened. And it went up even more because you got to pay to, mobilize the military. And then that's when the Great Recession happened. And then Obama came back and everything went back down. And then Trump came in and everything went back up. And Biden is in and everything is going back down except inflation.
So let's get back to inflation. Talk some more about the inflation. You gave us some of the numbers and what inflation is and where it's at. So what do we have to look forward to as the American people?
Well, inflation is going to be a thing that is going to be with us for a while because, quite frankly, even though the president said we're not in a pandemic, we're still feeling the effects of being in a pandemic when we were. Mm-hmm. Because, like, the way I look at it, the way I think about it is this. We live not in just the economy and a market that's just the United States. We have a world market.
We live in a global economy.
Exactly, a world market and a global economy.
Right.
So we do trade, and we do loans, and we do shipping, we do all this with the whole world. So
until we find these aliens, we're gonna be
the pandemic happened,
kicking it with each other for a while.
Right. The pandemic happens. The whole world shuts down.
Right.
Except Africa, which is a whole different topic that I got thoughts on that, but we ain't going to bring that up. But anyway, Europe, the Americas, everywhere shuts down. So it's like, man, ain't nobody making no money. No companies really making money except for Amazon and Netflix, entertainment type stuff. Or companies that can ship directly to your house real quick.
Right. That's what always goes up when recessions come. Basic human need. Well, not basic, but like entertainment, alcohol goes through the roof. Like you said,
like it did during the pandemic.
Yep. Amazon is one of the things that goes up because, you can get stuff sent to your house. Some companies that were already in existence saw their stocks go through the roof just based on what they needed to do. Telehealth came around. Zoom started killing the game. Google had their Google Meet, Microsoft Teams.
Couldn't go work out Peloton.
Yep, Peloton did great. Workout at home type of situations. Yep, all of that stuff went through the roof. I'm sorry I keep bringing it back to movies, but it's just all the things that happened were so bizarre and weird. It seemed like The Big Short wasn't sci-fi, but what's that movie with Bruce Willis? And the people were in their house and they used to send out like their avatars to do stuff for them. Oh man. Well, you know what? I got a computer here. I'm gonna look it up. Keep talking. I'm gonna look it up.
But anyway, so when you had this massive, and I mean massive, disruption in the global economy, it's like, okay, what is going to happen? We had a 1 in 100 year event, and not too many people are alive now. Matter of fact, nobody remembers it from back in the day.
Every 100 years.
So even if you were born back then, you
wasn't old enough to remember and say, yeah, we was eating oatmeal every day.
Right. So when it's that type of a massive disruption to the global supply chain, nobody's working, nothing is moving, people are sick, people are dying.
Dying, that's what I was about to say. People more than sick, they were dying.
Yeah, people are dying. So it's not like once everything got back, everything not got back, but once everything started to calm down and we kind of returned to normal, you can't expect things to just happen quick, like boom, 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 and be like it was before the pandemic.
Okay, let me just this movie real quick before we get too far away from it. The movie was surrogates, and the people were like, they would stay in their houses and send out the surrogate to do all their daily activities, but pretty much they would be in the crib. That's how we were. So go ahead and finish your point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so you move forward 2 years, year and a half, or whatever. Everything is up. Everything is up in price. So a logical thinking person is going to think like, all these businesses, all these companies are coming for what they missed because the world was shut down. Not just the United States, the world. So the company's like, look, we kind of returned to normal. And we lost a lot of money during the heights of the pandemic. What can we do to get this money back?
Raise prices on everything.
Raise prices on everything.
Let's put more air in the Doritos bag and you get one less chip. I literally just read that the other day.
And listen, you see what else they do, like the Gatorade bottles. They slim down the Gatorade bottle.
Yep.
It looks, if you don't look at it like really look, it's not noticeable. But if you look, the bottle is slimmed down. There's less liquid in it, and the prices are up.
Yep. I like that meme.
You know what I'm saying? So,
you ever see that meme with the Arizona iced tea and said whoever's been keeping these things 99 cents for all of this time, they need to run our economy.
Right, yeah, I saw that. But then you go in some stores and they raise the price on that.
For themselves.
Yep. You know what I'm saying? So you have all this disruption. And then you got to think about the shipping. Like you have the boats, you have trucks, you have trains, you have airplanes.
Planes, yeah.
You have all this stuff to where goods is able to move. And the mechanism by how they move. So you have people die. You have people that didn't want to be a part of the vaccine mandate. You had not enough workers to keep the global supply chain moving as it once was before the pandemic. So it's like, I sit back and I watch everybody get mad at the president. I'm the reason all the prices is up. No, he's not. You had a 1 in 100-year event across the world. And all these companies want their money back and then some. Because one of the things that people have to think about and have to remember, goods, services, and all these things that we enjoy as citizens, they're not made for us to enjoy. They're made for people to make money. We get to enjoy them, and we find things that we like. But at the end of the day, we're consumers. And consumers are at the mercy and at the feet of the business. So if they say we go put more air in this bag and put 5 less Doritos, but the bag will look like it's full, we going to still buy because we like Doritos. Right. Okay, the price went up 25 cents, 30 cents, whatever.
Right.
I still want to get that nacho cheese. I want to get that Cool Ranch or that fiery,
spicy nacho
Dorito. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if there's not, you know what I'm saying, a revolt against like business, then the prices won't go down. But people don't want to do that because people want to enjoy their luxuries. So they look for who to blame instead of what to blame. And that's a flaw in humanity.
Well, that's definitely not nothing we can fix on a podcast, but we can sure enough talk about it.
But it's something that we can talk about,
right?
So people can't just be on some, He the president right now. It's his fault.
Yeah,
no. Look, someone started when the other dude was the president.
But a lot of...
I remember when I walked in Home Depot one day, like a 2x4x8. Typically, it's between $8 and $11. During the summer of the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, a 2x4x8 was like $18. People don't talk about how inflation had been started. You know what I'm saying? Because they inflated the prices of woods because a lot of people was at home.
Wood went through the roof.
Do a project. Let me, tear this wall down and extend it out. Let me build my new deck. Let me extend my deck.
Yeah.
Okay, and all these people going to buy wood, we're going to raise the price up.
Yep. Wood, so even plywood, all the wood went through the roof. And it got to the point.
That's why I said woods.
But it started... It priced out a lot of contractors at the same time too. So I want to get back to a point you made before we move on. You was talking about humanity. So another thing about inflation, another thing we see, and something that you can definitely point to and see, is the cost, not even the cost, the amount of the athletes make for entertaining us, right? You see the contracts keep going up and up and up, up and up and up. And these contracts are astronomical, but guess what? Somebody's paying them this money at the same time too. When, like I said, this is a humanity question. It's just your opinion. But when in life is enough? Because it's to the point where some people make so much money, even if they blow it, their grandchildren can't even spend all the money that they're accumulating. CEOs, when they're quitting and taking severance packages, they're taking severance packages 7 times the rate of their regular salary to go get another job somewhere else and do the exact same thing. So, like I said, it's not an issue we can fix. It's something we can talk about. But what do you think about those issues there?
You want to know what happened? Like, I was reading this one thing. It was talking about, like, CEO pay and owner's take of, the business, the money that the business generates. And I think it was back in the late 70s, maybe 60s, there was a corporate tax rate. And, their wages and all that. The corporations used to be taxed at like 70%.
Oh.
In the 70s, 60s, 70s, in the 60s and going into the late 70s. But then, something happened. Ronald Reagan got elected, and it flipped. It flipped to where a CEO might make five times what the workers make 10 times. You have CEOs making 50 times the amount of money that
the lowest worker makes in that company.
Makes. Yep. And that's crazy.
That's crazy. And like I said, when is it enough?
It's not enough because rich people don't ever feel it's enough. And a lot of regular folks don't feel it's ever enough. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's just like how we do the Snowfall podcast. And, some of them drug dealers are, well, I'm going to make this and then get out. But at the end of the day, they don't make this and then get out. Well, because I got to get more. I got to have more than what somebody over in another country has or in another state or another city. As long as there's thirst or a hunger for more, there's never enough. And it's always been like that. Well, at least since the 70s and early 80s, because there's so much to gain from trying to gain it.
Well,
because there's no roadblocks, there's no safety nets, there's no measures put in place to say, okay, you got enough now. Go ahead and spread this out now. You ain't got to have it all. But all that stuff has been taken away. And plus, again, like we was talking about the global economy has expanded. As long as the global economy continues to grow and grow and grow and grow, there's more and more and more and more. So there's never enough.
Greed, like it's another '80s movie reference. Greed is good. Wall Street. That's what the like you said, the '60s, '70s, really in the '80s. Ronald Reagan coming around made all of that popular. So let's move on. Let's move on. Let's talk about some Senate races and some House races. The election is coming up. That's what we originally started this podcast. I had this podcast about. We wanted to make sure we got it out before November. So, like I said, let's talk about some Senate and House races.
Well, I'll start here. You know, I'm in Ohio, Cleveland. So we have a big Senate race. And we not big, but we have a very interesting House race. Mm-hmm. I'll start with the Senate race first. You got Tim Ryan and you got J.D. Vance. Tim Ryan is the Democrat. J.D. Vance is the Republican. Tim Ryan has always been in public service. He's gotten things done in Youngstown, which is where he's from. He's helped get legislation passed that helped the American people.
Right.
The most recent stuff with, the healthcare thing with the insulin, he helped that pass. He helped the infrastructure bill pass. When Biden took office and, COVID was still raging, he helped get through Congress more help for the American people. He's pro-worker. He's a typical Democrat, so to say, but he is trying to reach over to the Republican side because he says that he does agree with some of the things that Trump did. Mm-hmm. He's against the student debt relief. And he's very big on going after China. He says that a lot in his campaign ads. Then you got J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, a guy from, I want to say Middlefield, Ohio. He was a Marine journalist. He was in the Marines as a journalist. I've never heard of a Marine journalist, but at least he still served his country. He's a guy that lived out.
Didn't you see Full Metal Jacket? How you never heard of a Marine journalist? I mean, he was a
well, yeah, but it was just interesting. Like, man, you watching a movie, you ain't thinking about that, how it is in real life, but like, that's a good point by you. But anyway, he's a Marine journalist. He left Ohio, moved to San Francisco to be part of corporate America, where he worked with a guy named Peter Thiel. He's a guy that thought about the Capitol. So then he put out a book called Hillbilly Effigy, which is about growing up where he was from during an Obama administration and what Obama didn't do or did do for that area. The book sold pretty good. So he got in with Trump some kind of way. I don't know that whole backstory, but Trump convinced him, you should maybe run for office one day. So he moved back to Ohio to establish residency so he could run for the Senate to replace Ron Portman, another Republican, and he's running as the Republican candidate.
Okay. Ohio is one of those states where pretty much, like down in Columbus, they have where if a restaurant is going to make it or not, they put it in Columbus. That's kind of the test market for the entire country of what a restaurant is going to do. And Ohio is kind of like the heart of the country, the heart of it all for real, because what really happens there, Ohio is a polarizing state. Like the state I'm in, Illinois, while it can be Republican when you go further south, there are so many people in Chicago. There's more people in the city of Chicago than there is in the rest of the state, and they call it the state of Chicago. So whatever really happens here is what's going to carry the state. And a lot of the Southern people don't like that. But Ohio doesn't have that same problem because you have Republicans that vote, get out and are active. You have Democrats that get out and are active. So Ohio is that state that makes up a lot of what we see goes on in the rest of the country.
Let me ask you a question. Because I always like to ask people this question, and they always get it wrong. I'm gonna see how close you come to getting it right. When considering population size, where does Ohio rank in population size for a state compared to the rest of the country?
I have no idea, so I'm not going to get it right or wrong because I don't even know.
Take a guess. Take a guess.
Where does it rank as far as a state?
It's a state in regards to population. How many people live in Ohio? Put it like that.
Okay.
Compared to other states.
Well, a lot of the states we have in the country aren't heavily populated. You know, you go to the Dakotas, the Wyomings, Montanas, and even though they're huge in land size, they don't have a lot of people. You got New York, got a ton of people as a state and a city. I'm gonna say on the upper side of the 50, that'd be 25. It's got to be in the top 10.
Well, that's pretty good because you have been the only person that say at least in the top 10. Ohio is the 6th most populated state in the country.
Oh, okay.
Number 6. A lot of people don't know that because, like, when they think of Ohio, they think, well, a bunch of farms, cows, horses, pigs, whatever they want to think.
Well, you got 3 major cities. And it's not like Texas, where Texas has 3 major cities, but they have the land size to accommodate those 3 major cities. But Cleveland is, even though, you know, dwindling in some cases, in some points, it's still a major city. You got the hospital, got teams.
Absolutely.
Columbus, huge city, and Cincinnati. So you got 3 major cities in one state. Like even Michigan has just Detroit, really. Like I said, Illinois just has Chicago. Like I said, Texas, the only other one I can think of that has San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston is 3 major cities. And you could even argue some of the other cities as major cities as well in Texas. But yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it goes California, New York, Texas, Florida, Illinois, Ohio.
Illinois. No S.
Well, whatever. Ohio. But a lot of people wouldn't think that. And that's why a lot of times you always hear, well, Ohio is the bellwether for the country. That's because it is.
Yeah.
It's right in the middle of the country. You know what I'm saying? It has a fairly populated land base. And for the longest time, it was split, 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans. So that's why it has always been called the bellwether. Yeah. But if you go up to 10 people and ask them, how do you think Ohio ranks in terms of population in the country? 8 of them go say outside the top 10. Probably more than them go, or they'll say outside the top 20. Yeah. Not a lot of people even realize how many people live in Ohio. Yeah. And like people ask them, who has more people, Georgia or Ohio? Georgia, ain't no way. No, it's Ohio.
All they think about is Atlanta.
What about Michigan? No, it's Ohio.
Well, like I said, they only got one city.
No, it's Ohio. You know what I'm saying? So we are the bellwether. And that's why that Senate race that I was just speaking about is very important. Because, the candidates are polar opposites.
Right.
Because when you talk about the issues, like, Tim Ryan supports, I call it a woman's private life. I don't even like to say abortion. I like to say a woman's privacy. He supports a woman's privacy. J.D. Vance doesn't. J.D. Vance says that women should have all kinds of kids and If that kid was conceived through rape, incest, or any terrible other thing, then the baby should be born.
Yeah. That's those issues, they are discussion points of topic, but I'm not gonna sugarcoat it or lie. I don't feel comfortable as a man being able to tell a woman what she should and shouldn't be able to do, morally,
nor should any man,
legally, or anything else like that. But it's another podcast I listen to that kind of breaks down the topics of the day and makes it real basic. And it was saying that abortion wasn't even a moral argument to begin with. It was more of a medical argument for women to not be out here killing themselves by accident trying to get rid of babies.
Yes. Yes. No, is there some women that, use abortion as birth control? There probably is. Is it millions of them? No. Absolutely not. And then, one of the things that I really hate to hear when, listening to all these ads that's been running, because it's election season. Well, Democrats support late-term abortions even when the baby is coming out the womb.
No.
What normal person
see a baby come out nah.
Healthy baby that's born, that as soon they're born. Well, they would take the baby's life as soon as it's handed to his mother. What kind of fanaticism is that?
Yeah, no.
Nobody does that. It's a scare tactic. It's the boogeyman. There ain't no boogeyman. Why make a woman who might have had some complications even during birth? Why turn her into a boogeyman?
Right. Yep.
I know of somebody, no names please, they went to have their baby. The baby had been healthy up until, it was time for her to give birth. And something happened while she was giving birth, and she delivered the baby dead.
Stillborn.
The baby was born. It was a fully developed, healthy baby up until it was time for the baby
to come out,
to be delivered.
Yep, that happens.
You know what I'm saying? So for people to put out stuff about women wanting to abort their babies up to birth, no woman wants to do that. No woman wants to do that. You don't want to carry a baby for 9 months. You feel this baby kicking. You feel this baby doing flips. You go and get your ultrasounds. You see the baby smiling, sucking his thumb. And then you get to the time where it's time to deliver. You're like, no, I don't want it. No, I don't want it. That's cool. No. Are there abortions that happen late term? Of course, because maybe something happened with the baby. Maybe the heart didn't fully develop in that seventh month or that 8th month. You know what I'm saying? So the doctor say, well, you might have to abort this baby. Maybe the baby's head hasn't fully, the skull is only halfway developed, and the brain is hanging over the skull.
You can go on and on. I mean, we're human. There's so many different things.
But to turn women into the problem, to demonize them for talking with their healthcare provider, you know what I'm saying, their family, if they're into faith, if they're talking to their pastor or their priest, but to demonize them because something happened with the development of that baby, say, well, you're an abortionist and Democrats support you because you're an abortionist. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit and it's not fair. And they run all these commercials about this stuff. And it's unfair and it's just not true. But there's a large segment of our population that believes it.
Yeah. And we don't even, people say, oh, I want to do my homework and do my own research. All people do is go look. Well, all they do is go look for facts to support what they think is right. They're not really looking or doing real research to see actual scientific facts and figures and even differences of opinion. They see something that they agree with, they go and run with that. And I mean, we're in the age of the internet that if you see it on the internet, anything can be true. We could write
Absolutely.
that. We could write that.
And that's just something that's, you know, that has happened to our country as the internet has expanded into social media.
You know what? It's Al Gore's fault. Democrat.
And like, as more people are able to get connected to the internet, you know, it has caused this tide of misinformation, and let me go find what I believe, because if it's there, that means it's true. No, that just means it's another dumb motherfucker like you out there putting it out.
Well, you know, a lot of times I talk to people about taking tests. In my job, tests are huge things to gauge your knowledge of a subject. So I said at this point, we can all get the answers. It's just how you go about getting the answer. To me, in my little stupid opinion, I feel like that should be the test within itself. Can you get the information? Can you get the right information? Do you know where to get it? As opposed to just having muscle memory and knowing what to put down for a thing. I mean, muscle memory is great if you know it off the top of your head, sweet. But sometimes you need to have the ability to go look for information and come up with the right answer.
Absolutely. And you know what else I was just thinking about while you were talking? Like, I was thinking about when you first got a computer.
I was thinking about that too.
You probably were the only person within 10, 15 blocks that probably had a computer.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And now think about what your dad had to do to be able to get you that computer and, you know, get it programmed right and for you to
set up and all of that. Yep.
Now think of how it is today. You got a computer in the palm of your hand.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And you can go get one of them computers, depending on what kind of service you want, for $40.
Yep, for $40 exactly. And you can send.
And depending on what kind of government assistance you want, you can probably get it for free.
You can send pictures of all kind of stuff anywhere. You can see stuff. You can look things up. We are truly more connected now than we've ever been in the history of the world.
Absolutely. So with everybody being so connected, you got those people out there that have those crazy, alternative, maybe unrealistic thoughts. But, you know, in a free thinking society, it should be allowed. But you have to know the difference. And this is something that goes back to the beginning of humanity. You have to know the difference between right and wrong.
Right.
And why is right and wrong.
And not based, well, I don't even want to get into this subject, but not based on just religion. Because a lot of people lean on that to make them good and make them feel like they're good and everything else. And I'm like, you shouldn't need a book to tell you to be a good person. Well, that's what I said. That's, you know what? That's a whole nother podcast.
Oh my God, that's a completely man.
That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother podcast.
We can move on, or you can comment on it, or whatever. I think religion has done more harm to this country than good, especially with what we just talked about, with everybody being able to get any kind of whatever kind of information that is out there by just holding up a little rectangular thing and unlocking it.
I'm gonna do you one better. Forget the country. How about the world?
The world.
and the Crusades, and we find these books that's written. Oh no, we got to burn these up. We found this library with all these books in it. Oh no, this got to go. Based on what? Based on religion. So
I want to say this to her. Like, I was talking to this girl about y'all, and I like have made this thought up as I was just talking. It's like, I'm one of those people, like, even while I'm talking, I'm thinking. You know what I'm saying? And like, I know that might sound kind of weird, but I can talk, listen, and think at the same time. Because, like, I was talking to her about religion, and we was talking about, like, if you don't praise God, God won't let you in heaven. So I say, God is a very arrogant God, and so is Jesus. If whatever thing they say in the Bible is like how you get into heaven. I mean, just think about it. You can do everything the Bible says, everything that the Bible recommends you do, how you live, and all the way down to the way you wear your clothes. And I forget that part about the clothes. But you can do everything, but if you get to the pearly gates, like, what's up, God? Do you praise me? No, but I believe in what you say. You can't get in here. Well, why not? God, I believe in all your principles, but do you praise me? No. Well, you can't get... Think how arrogant that Bible is. Think how arrogant that shit is when you really think about it. I'm the only God. I'm the Savior. Well, you know, I believe all that stuff, but I mean, I just was down here living my life, and I did it the best I could, and I was a great person. Do you praise me? No. Well, to hell you go. Like, think how arrogant that is. How I say, like a real arrogant type of guy.
These are conversations I've had with myself, and we might have to change the title of this podcast to something totally different. Let's move on. So another topic of discussion that you wanted to get to was January 6th, the insurrection. So let's talk about that. Let's get into that.
So, where I'm at, I had tore my rotator cuff and I was at therapy. I turn on the radio and I open my phone and I see people. No, I see Trump talking. Let me start on. I see Trump talking. I get in my car, drive a little bit, and I get home and I turn the TV on. And when I tell you that my jaw hit the ground, I mean, it probably, went all the way down into my basement. How hard, you know what I'm saying, they hit the ground. I've never seen nothing like that. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was possible. I would always post about it on my Facebook. People probably thought, man, this dude's Troy tripping. He just don't like Trump. No, it ain't had nothing to do with it. I mean, it did a little bit, but I just seen it was very cultish. The hoopla about him. And a court will do anything. A court will surprise you to the point where you didn't think something like that was possible, and that's what courts do. Like, you could go back to the David Koresh thing where they were fighting out with all the FBI agents back in the day. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't something that...
It's damn predictable. I mean, I shouldn't say that all the way, because they do have... I've been in case studies where they have a idea of what they might do. There are studies on what they might do, but at the same time, they're unpredictable. So it's like you kind of have an idea, but it's like a deck of cards. You got to pick one and and see where it's going to go.
Well, yeah, like for me, seeing that, seeing the years since, seeing how everything has played out. Me personally, and look, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat. I make no bones about it. But I do, and I've said this before, and I will continue to say it. We need a balanced government. We need a balanced government because we need checks and balances. That's the way the system was designed. And I believe in that system. But since that January 6th stuff, and because of not enough Republicans have come out to condemn it and move away from Trump, I don't think we can elect this current wave of Republicans. I think the system needs to be reset. The system needs to be reset because you can't have a guy that incited that mob, and you know he's incited it, or he incited it. If you've been watching the January 6th committee hearings, and all these Republicans come and speak about how they were talking to him and telling him to tell his people to go home and telling him to make a statement, and it took him hours to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think as an American that if people are running on his coattails and he did that, or his people did that to the people's house, and not just their house, the people's house, it's all our house. Like I watched this thing where Nancy Pelosi said when they went in there, it was shit all on the floors. When I say shit, I don't mean like trash and books. I mean actual shit, excrement, all on the floor, thrown on the walls, smeared on the tables. She said this. And those were Republican voters that went in there and did that.
Mm-hmm.
So we should be cool with these people putting in, Congress people and senators. We should be cool with them in their selections. I just, to me, and for me, it doesn't fly. That January 6th shit was the most ridiculous, unpatriotic,
I'm gonna just call it a mess.
Terrorist type thing I've seen happen.
That was a terrorist-like event, absolutely.
And
people died and everything.
You a Democrat. It ain't got to do with being a Democrat.
Yeah, it got to do with being a person.
It got to do with not liking white people because they did it. There's a couple black folks in there too, but it ain't got nothing to do with none of that, any of that. It's just the fact that them folks over a dude that lost. It could be different if he won, and he proved that he won, and all the court said that he won, but everybody else was like, nah, he ain't winning. We just gonna take it from him. But that's what they believe. They don't believe the facts. They don't believe the 63 courts that ruled that the election was fine and that, you know what I'm saying?
They don't believe that electoral college that put him in 4 years previous.
Right. They didn't get mad about the Republican senators and the Republican Congress people that won their races, the governors and all that. They won. You know what I'm saying? So how is it tilted towards Democrats if both Democrats and Republicans won? You can't have it your way. This ain't, you know what I'm saying? It ain't Burger King.
It ain't Burger King, yep. You can't have it your way.
You have to live with the results and move on.
And like
not go storm the Capitol and shit on the floor and smear it on your face or on somebody's computer that had to get up and run because your crazy ass ran in there and ran them off.
Well, like I said, people died. That's like the ultimate sacrifice over an election, and it's not fair. It's not cool. I mean, these people, some of them are going to jail and getting caught and everything else, but at the same time, this dude incited a riot, and they like, hey, you got to go out there and tell these people to chill out. This dude go out there and do the exact opposite.
They said lady was watching it on TV and told one of the dudes, well, I guess they really bad, huh?
Right. Guess they really mad. And you turn this on. It's like you turned on this faucet. You got this water flowing. Go turn it off. Nah.
They literally was chasing senators and Congress people. And this dude watching it on TV and doing nothing.
Yep. Ain't help. Ain't.
And people still go vote for people that he endorses. It boggles my mind. Like, it boggles my mind. But, you know what I'm saying? What can you do? In the January 6th committee hearings, they've been putting it out there. I know a lot of people, I ain't watching that. I think it's important that we watch it because it's important that we watch it because we have to see how close we came to losing our democracy, to losing our republic. No one had entered the Capitol since the British back in the 1800s, other than lawmakers. Nobody.
And now you letting your own people.
Right, your own people. You know the other thing that's crazy about that? Do you know that 80% of the people that stormed the Capitol were normal working class people?
Yep.
80%. Like, they always talk about the Proud Boys and all these other far-right militias. 80% of the people that stormed that Capitol was a part of no militia, no right-wing extremist fringe. They were people that if you could be walking in the store,
would be right next to you, walking down the street,
in front of you,
in the restaurant that you in,
at the ATM,
yep,
or work with you. And I think that says a lot about where we are right now as the two parties. The other side I say, well, what about Antifa? They were burning down cities. And I say, well, I can show you where they said that 94% of Antifa protests were peaceful. That's not. That's just the fake news media.
Now.
So were you there watching them? I watched January 6th on TV.
Now, nobody died, but, and I don't even know who it was, to be honest with you, because they said they paying people and sending them up there. I was in the middle of a riot with no gun. I'm just fireman out here. I got an axe, but like trying to make a hydrant to get some water because somebody set this camera store on fire, and they throwing M80s at us. It you know what it looked like, and I say this all the time. People are like, how? It looked like Batman, the last one, the Dark Knight, when the people was in the street just fighting each other and everything. It looked just like that. And you watch that kind of stuff on TV. Oh yeah, this cool. This what's up, man. I'm not afraid to say it or ashamed to say it. I was scared as ever. Cause like I said, I ain't got no gun. I ain't got no vest. And people like firemen, but they don't like us enough to not throw bombs at us while we trying to do our job. So it was right. The bridges was up because, like, if you here in the city, they was trying to keep the people downtown. So the bridges was up, and it was something I had never seen and hope to never see again. Yeah.
Dude, think about the year 2017 to 2021. We've seen so much stuff that we thought we would never see. We've seen stuff that they were seeing in the 60s, but even worse.
When I was talking about the riots, they talk about the King riots in Chicago, and they burned the West Side down. The West Side still hasn't recovered a lot from what happened then. And it wasn't like that, but it bordered on those same events. And like you were saying, it was a point I was thinking of when you were talking about earlier when we were talking about the pandemic. All of this even came about just over spite and pride, because I got this every 100 years there's a pandemic. History tells you this. This is not something somebody that made up.
Going back centuries.
Right. You every 100 years, something come around and it's gonna come. I'm gonna try and stop it before it comes. Okay, that's a sweet idea. Good idea. I'm the president now. I'm getting rid of it just because it got your name on it. But it's a good idea. I don't care. It gets your name on it. It's got to go. So this dude literally got rid of all the doctors and all the people that were researching infectious diseases just based upon somebody else came up with the idea and you didn't.
Yeah, and based off of spite.
And this is the dude that y'all like. This is the savvy businessman to go bankrupt every second. And his bankruptcies means he knows how to run a country. If he can run his businesses and not get caught and sent to jail, he can sure enough do a good a job for us. What is this?
Right. Right. You remember other podcasts. I don't want to, turn this into no Trump bash thing, but
no, we're gonna move on after your point.
I told you that dude was going to lose that election, not because of all the other crazy shit he was doing. Because he was doing a lot of crazy shit that people just put off, like, yeah, whatever. I told you he was going to lose that election because of that pandemic.
Yeah.
I told you that.
Yeah.
I said that he didn't care about the pandemic. He just cared about power. He don't care about that pandemic. He just wanted to rile up his base and make sure he get enough votes. Like, he would make fun of Biden for campaigning from his basement. He's in his basement. He don't really want to run the country. But this dude out here having rallies, killed Herman Cain.
Come on, man.
Got the COVID himself, almost died, but because he was the president, he lived. You know what I'm saying? And, there's been all this stuff that has come out.
You can't say this dude killed Herman Cain, man. It's...
I didn't say he did. I said having the rallies killed Herman Cain.
I know. I understand. I get your point. Herman Cain knew what he was doing when he came out there with no mask on.
There's been all this stuff that has come out from people within his administration and from that Bob Woodward guy that Trump literally did not give a fuck about the pandemic.
Hey.
He did not care. He didn't care about getting the information out to the people. The scientists would tell him one thing, he'd get on TV and he'd say something completely different. Oh, man, where'd that come from? He'd get on the TV to say something completely different. And all this stuff is just now coming out. But anybody with a brain could see what was happening, what was going on, because there wasn't enough information out there. They literally suppressed the information from the scientists that would have helped the country. And then they said that he didn't take the advice of his administration officials to prepare for what could come in the future.
Yep.
Due to the pandemic, which goes back to the inflation.
Call his generals dummies. Call North Korea and old German how they would stand at attention for their leaders. Say, yeah, that's how they supposed to do. I wouldn't mind having that. That dude is off the chain. But while we on it, instead of jumping away from him and jumping back to him, let's talk about the documents he stole real quick.
He's a thief. He's been a thief.
Yeah, he that's all you want to say about it. He a thief and he been a thief.
Yeah, thief and he been a thief.
But you know what?
Stealing people's monies.
He been stealing people's money. Documents. When I first moved here,
all the people that built that Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, he didn't even pay them people what it cost. He took them to court and they got pennies on the dollar.
He did the same thing here. That's what I was just about to say. When I first moved here is when the Trump opened up, and he sold one side as a hotel, the other side as apartments or condos or whatever, and he didn't pay the people, took the turned their rights over, and when they bought in on the investment and everything else. I've been in that building twice. I take that back. Twice since I've lived here. And it is a beautiful building, but I don't understand how it's still operational with all the stuff he does. Maybe that's what people point to when they say he can run the country. If he can scam and trick people.
Still on it.
Well, his name is on it. And he made sure that happened. Because the city tried to block him from putting his name on it. He did something, and his name is. You come right down the street, you see a big old Trump. So,
like I was reading something. Hold on, I was reading something today about him. They said that he had a rally in El Paso, Texas, back in 2019. Cost $589,000 to put it on. He still ain't paid them folks. He still haven't paid the city. And it ain't just them. He owes millions of dollars to cities that he has held rallies at because he blow in there. They got to do all this security. They got to do all this overtime for the police.
Well, that's like all that stealing. He went to his own spot and made the American people pay for him going to his own spot to play golf. And that's all he talked about Obama doing.
He's a thief.
He said, he's probably working on his golf game.
And that's going to be what ultimately gets him indicted as that stuff that he stole, because that's, in a way, it can be considered espionage.
Yeah.
And there has been plenty of people that have gone to jail or prison for having national security files or threats to national security that are in files with them. You know what I'm saying? And he don't just have one or two. He has hundreds.
The thing that's funny, but it's definitely not supposed to be funny, he said you can declassify a document in your mind. Just think about it. It's declassified. This dude is absolutely nuts. And I give him one thing. He says anything. Not that it's a good thing, but he says anything.
Here's the thing about him, though. Like, everybody, Kanye West in the news right now for all his exploits. I think Trump worse than him.
Yeah, I agree. And Kanye, he just making everything worse than himself.
Like,
everybody dropping him.
I mean, what lives? Okay, a rat lives in filth on top of the ground, and they burrow underground. What lives under a rat? A roach. Roaches.
They gonna be around forever.
Yeah, Kanye a rat. Trump is a roach.
So we've been going for a long time, and it ain't really too much to cut out. And I don't want this to be a 2-parter or a 2-hour podcast. So let's go over these few more topics. You wanted to speak about the Supreme Court. Now I'll let you go and I'll let you cook, and then I'll come around and back up some. So go ahead. What will we talk about the Supreme Court?
I've always been a guy that loves the law. Like, laws keep, the citizens straight so they don't, overrun each other. And the Supreme Court is the height of law. There's not supposed to be any partisanship. They're supposed to rule based on the Constitution for the most part, but because we are a more a more evolved nation, and because things aren't quite like they were when the Constitution was written, we have to, rule based on how society is now. But for me, I feel like the Supreme Court is bought, and the reason I say that is I've always paid attention to Clarence Thomas. mainly because he's a black man. And I always thought it was interesting that he would never write an opinion. He would never speak when they would have oral arguments at the Supreme Court. He would never say nothing, but he was always very far right. A lot of guys on the Supreme Court, he don't talk, he don't write opinions. He just sit there and like a rock. And then they started adding more people like him. And now he won't shut the fuck up. He writes opinions.
Now he got backing.
He writes opinions. I mean, it was other conservative justices, but they weren't as conservative as him. So now he's writing opinions. He got his wife out here running around. You know what I'm saying? He's showing up at seminars, and he's going to speak to college students. He's doing all this stuff, but for decades, this dude didn't say shit. But once they started adding people like him, here he is. He's constantly in the news. You would never hardly ever see anything about Clarence Thomas.
You know who I blame?
But now because...
I said, you know who I blame?
Who?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She should have left.
I do too. She should have retired.
She should have retired. And I understand kind of what she was trying to do, but this lady knew she was sick. This lady knew she wasn't going to be able to be around for forever. And we let one of the worst people ever be able to pick, what, three people?
Three.
That's amazing. And that, we should have talked about that with abortion, but that like just makes the dynamic of the country just one way. And like you say, it's supposed to be nonpartisan. That is a lie. That is not what's up.
Complete lie.
That is not what's up.
Like today, like they had they were talking about how, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, maybe some do, but when the Supreme Court was first adopted, it wasn't always 8 justices. It was 4 at one point, 5, 7. You know what I'm saying? For a long time, it was 7 because
3 and 4.
The Republicans wouldn't let Obama appoint Garland. But
right.
That's a whole nother topic. But like a lot of people or some people might see that you heard we need to expand the Supreme Court. And then people are like, well, they ain't expanding the Supreme Court. Now that'll just get liberals and Democrats to court. But if you go on precedent about how the Supreme Court got to 8, there's 8 Supreme Court justices. Because at one point there were 8 district courts. And each justice resides over a district. But here's the thing. There's now 11 districts. It might even be more than that. I might be off on that, but I think there's 11 districts. There might be 13. So
you're all over the place.
If we're going to go with
past precedents or past practice, it should be expanded.
Right. It should be expanded because that is what it was set on. Okay, as we add more districts, we add more Supreme Court justices. But the Supreme Court been set at 8 for decades now. And it's not, a crazy thought or a crazy idea to say, well, if we got all these districts, we need to just add these extra Supreme Court justices like they did back in the day so they can sit on these districts. But see, that's the whole thing about what and who.
Well, another thing, that kind of goes back to our capitalistic society talk and our greed and when is enough, because to me, I feel like it should be term limits even on the Supreme Court. I mean,
absolutely.
I know you want somebody there that's experienced and know what they're doing, but people are so intelligent to the point where you can present if you are an intelligent person or not to be able to be on the panel, be on the court. But the other thing, and maybe I'll feel different when I get to be 80. Maybe I'll feel like I got the mind of I got now, or I can still do bench 300 pounds or something crazy like that. Maybe I'll feel like that when I'm 80. But these guys that we are talking about, Biden and Trump, are like 78.
Yeah.
At a point in existence, you got to go home. You gotta you gotta just go enjoy your life. The job I'm on here, 63. Hey, you got to go. I mean, you can be a chief, you can be this, you can be that, you can tell people what to do, but you got to go. At some point, it should be term limits on the justices, Congress, and an age limit on a president. But that's ageism if I start talking about that. But that's what I'm saying. When is somebody going to bring that up? Like, hey, we too old hanging out here. We got to go at some point. Nobody's going to bring that up to put themselves out of a job. You know what I'm saying?
I believe in term limits for Congress. I believe in age limits for president, and I believe in age Supreme Court. Like, I don't think. I'd say this: if you are 70, if you're 70 and you run for office and you win, say you win your 2 terms, you be there 8 years. 78, you got to get out.
You got to go.
Because 70 ain't as old as it used to be.
Right. You know yeah, we're in a whole different era. It's celebrities. Ron Isley, I think 80 something. He out here still singing with his cane and actually sound good. So, right, in healthcare, we advancing. I'm with that. But at some point, you got to go home.
I think 70 should be the cutoff for senators as well. And I believe if you're in the House, because in the House, you know, your term is up every 2 years. You should get at least 5 terms. Because if you can't
do something in that amount of time.
Right. Yeah. And like if you can't get to the point of being a senator or, you know, maybe working inside the administration after you've been in the House of Representatives for 10 years, I think you just need to move on.
Even if you can pick your successor, just something other than you hanging around.
Yeah, you hanging around too long. Like, and that's the thing about it. You know, we was talking about the Senate campaign. Tim Ryan been in the House, I think, 20 years, and that's a long time.
That's a long time. Yes, you got
very long time,
do
man.
something. And like I said, I appreciate the experience. I'm with that. I if you've been there for long enough and you keep getting elected, you're obviously doing something kind of correct, which is cool.
Right.
For your constituents, for the people you represent. But just at a certain point, someone has to bring up the fact that, as they would say, it's all of us here. We all got this job. We doing what we supposed to do. We're representatives, but we got to either move on to something else or go somewhere else because it's just too much. Now, I was talking about our time. We got 2 topics, but I'm only letting you pick one.
Oh.
So you can either talk about student loan forgiveness or upcoming COVID wave.
I'll go with student loan forgiveness.
Okay.
I don't think the COVID wave is going to be that bad. It's definitely going to go up, but it should be all right for the most part. Let me just say one more thing about that. I was reading this thing. It said that the vaccine was more embraced by the Black community, because at first, you know how Black people are with vaccines.
Tuskegee, we out.
And stuff. We out. We cool. We don't want to do that. But, you know, as more and more people around them began to die, they said, "Oh, well, wait a minute. This dude was walking around fine last week. And then this week, all he had was a cough. And then later in the week, he dead.
Yep.
I might want to go get this shot."
Yep.
So it got to the point where black people began to get so vaccinated that it started to outpace white folks. And as of last week, more white people are dying from the pandemic than black people. When at first it was more black people dying than white folks. I think that's interesting.
It is
very interesting.
But that's all you get. So now we on the student loan forgiveness.
Student loans. Well, I have student loans, and I think it's interesting. Like I took out about $45,000 of student loans. I've paid back $35,000.
Oh, that's what's up.
But because of interest, I still owe $50,000.
Jesus Christ!
Ain't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, not 50,000, 15,000. Between 15 and 20. But anyway, I made a post the other day. Student loan forgiveness is something that I believe was needed, especially, these times, because people can always use a little lift coming out of that pandemic that didn't take advantage of the funds that was out there. When I say advantage, I mean in a crook. Because there is a lot of people, doing that PPP game.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and I think the biggest thing that they need to do with the student loans is the interest. The interest is what kills people.
Yeah, but that's where they make a lot of their money.
It builds and it builds and it builds and it builds. But to be mad at people for getting 10,000 or
man, people mad about everything that ain't got nothing to do with them. And
people get mad about.
I said, how you gonna be mad because somebody getting some money? Well, you gonna have to. Where the money coming from? You gonna have to pay for it. I ain't paying for their stupid education, and they ain't helping me and everything else. That's the number one thing I hear.
Something that people. I was thinking about this when I was reading this one time. Do you know that federal money goes to watching a dude beat his meat?
What?
How long can he beat his meat before he pass out?
What?
Yes. Federal money is a medical study.
Oh,
how many times can a man come during the day? It's a medical study that's paid by our federal dollars.
Man.
You ever heard, how many people even know that?
I got not me, because I got a joke, but I'm gonna keep it to myself.
You know what I'm saying? There is so much stuff that we pay for that we have no idea or no clue that we pay for. Exactly. It ain't like they go mark on your paycheck. Okay.
We took your money.
Matter of fact, a penny of your money went to the federal student loan forgiveness program. Oh my God, they took a penny? Ain't nobody really getting no money taken out of their paycheck for that. People just want something to get mad about and somebody to get mad at. You know what I'm saying? People they got to find somebody to place their anger towards and to get mad at.
I'm a lot of things, but
it's ridiculous.
I'm a lot of things, but one thing I ain't never been. I put this post up as a hater. I just can't be mad about. I can't find the place to be mad about somebody getting something that I'm not eligible for, and I'm, how they say, don't hate the player, hate the game. If anything, I guess I'd hate that, but I can't be mad at it. Good for them. I mean, if it's gonna help them and it's gonna help somebody, put some extra food on their table. I read a lot, listen to a lot of podcasts. Dude was talking about how his parents started cooking breakfast for dinner a lot, because breakfast is a pretty cheap meal. Get some egg, get some pancakes, get some syrup, get some butter. We out here. He said, man, I thought we was living it up. Little did I know my parents was broke, and that's the only way they could feed me was breakfast for dinner. So if this can help some people, why would I hate?
Just think about it like this. that little $10,000 or that $20,000. Okay, now maybe somebody they've been living in in an impoverished area and paying their student loans. Now they got a little bit of extra money to put away to buy a house, or their kid been sick and the medical bills
piling up. Yep.
Now they got a little bit more extra money to help pay that medical bill off earlier. You know what I'm saying? Maybe somebody trying to start a business. Now they got a little bit more money to put towards making that business become a reality from a dream. You know what I'm saying? Why get mad at people that now have a chance to maybe do something great? Because a lot of people feel like if you went to college and you got student loans, that was on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you should have read the fine print and all that and blah, 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 and blah, blah. And you should have been paid your student loans off. Everybody that I know, for the most part, that has student loans, pay their student loans. But sometimes that hole is so deep to dig out of.
Like you got to hit the lottery to get out.
And you ain't just paying that principal. You paying all that interest. And that interest sometimes gets to the point where it's more than the principal.
Right.
And that shouldn't be. I think the whole thing needs to be revised. I think at the most there should be 2% interest, 1% interest on federal student loans. Because people go to college to make money and also help the country improve. Scientists, doctors,
but,
you know what I'm saying, nurses, all kind of ways.
We're in this capitalistic society. At the same time, I'm the dean. I got to make super dean dough. And on top of that, I got to give out these scholarships so we can have the best sports team in the country, in the nation. I got to pay this coach gobs of money, but I ain't paying these athletes. That's a whole nother topic of discussion and everything.
There's no reason Nick Saban should make $12 million a year.
That's what I'm saying. They making all this super gobs of money. And then, like I said, severance packages once they leave the university, even if they do everything right all the way through, it's time we live in. So, well, we've been going on for an hour 30. Like I said, we don't have a whole lot to cut out.
Can I make a closing statement?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to say, oftentimes on Facebook and on my Twitter, I post a lot about politics. I think it's important that people understand how close we are to losing our democracy. I think that voting, for me, is so important because I've seen what people went through for me to be able to vote. I've seen the pictures and I've seen the videos. People getting bitten by dogs, people getting sprayed, people getting hung, people getting shot. Just so their generation and future generations can be able to vote. That's not something I take lightly. I think it's very important that we do vote. And right now, not just a normal vote of who's the better candidate between 2, 3, or whatever people. It's you either vote for your democracy to continue to thrive or your democracy to go backwards. For me, I want to vote for our democracy to thrive and move forward. And I think everybody else should need to take that into account when going to vote. Don't think about inflation. Don't think about an oncoming recession. Think about what happened on January 6th. Think about what happened with COVID. Think about how all these different states have rolled back voting laws. That's what's on the ballot, not inflation and not the oncoming or maybe coming recession. Remember that. That's important.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you finish it there. This was your idea. I'm glad we got to do it together. As always, it was a great talk. I won't make a closing statement. I'll just say thank you for appearing on the show. With that being said, if you have any comments, questions, anything you'd like to get to us, you have our contact information, info@department3c.com, or you can just hit the website, department3c.com, leave a comment, message, whatever. I'm going to try and put out a blog to go along with this as well. And without anything else, Troy, thank you again, sir.
All righty. Vote. Go vote.
Go vote. Peace.